Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Test.
At first, when I saw number 13, I thought the other day that the KARP, wasn't that radio station that they had that ag announcer on and that? Yeah.
I was I was trying to get the letters straight myself.
This is what Bonnie Faber looks like with the jail.
Yeah.
See, I'm hard of hearing, I don't hear you.
Wasn't that they had the ag announcer on there? There was an ag announcer that was always.
KRP,
And then his assistant was that good-looking gal that nobody cared what she said. They were just looking at her. That's terrible, but it's the truth.
Greg with First District's on the phone. He's wondering about the files that you want him to send. Just the map. If he can, the map that we were supposed, that he gave me the paper copies. Can he send me a PDF of the map? Okay, 9 o'clock.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Welcome everyone to the weekly Cotton County Board of Commissioners meeting on September 5th. That's the day is. Just a little housekeeping. If you have a cell phone, please silence it or turn it off. And if you do get a call that you need to take, please step out into the rotunda and take it so you don't interfere with whoever happens to be speaking at that time. Also, the meetings are being streamed, and so if you address the board, more than likely you will be on live TV or live computer somewhere, just so that you're aware of that. Having said that, we have a pretty long agenda this morning, so we're going to be buzzing right along
I'll
here.
make a motion to approve the agenda.
And so we have a motion to approve the agenda,
Second.
and we have a second. There is one change that I would make, number 17, the action to request a discharge of fireworks has been withdrawn, so you can scratch number 17. Any other changes? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Action that
Move to
we need
approve
to
is
approve the
emailed.
August 22nd meeting minutes. We have a
Second.
motion by Hanton, second by
Aye.
Van Dusen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 3, it's 9 a.m., public hearing on a petition to vacate a public street right-of-way in Waverly, and that being a public hearing, we would turn it over to the public at this time. And what we will do, if you note on the agenda, there is no action to be taken. So at the close of the public hearing, the board then can make a decision whether they want to post or move that to the next meeting. We'll have to have it on the agenda if we do any action at all on it. So the nearest time that we could do it would be next week. That being said, I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone out there that wishes to speak to this item? If so, now is your chance. We have Luke.
I'll be here to do your brief report if need be.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
The request here, as you said, is a petition to vacate a portion of Central Avenue in Waverly. The applicant here is Doug Comus.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
There we go.
Thank you, John.
The applicant here
It's on.
The applicant here is Doug Comus on, as I said, it's a portion of Central Avenue, kind of in the middle of Waverly, on the county road that comes into Waverly, east to west, west to east, depending on which way you're coming through town. I will spare some of the detail and presentation that was held at the Planning Commission in in August. But Mr. Comus requests to vacate the right-of-way because there are two buildings located within the right-of-way. One was built in 1910, approximately 1910. The other one was built in the 1960s. And though it's not entirely clear which came first in this case, if it was the chicken or the egg, this one is that the buildings were there, right-of-way was platted for the town of Waverly. The right-of-way wound up being 100 foot wide, as opposed to what presumably was assumed a 66-foot right-of-way. So the county's got a 100-foot right-of-way. We became aware of this actually through this process. And so at this point, he's requesting to vacate this portion of Central Avenue because it's not used for traffic, and the house and garage owned by Mr. Comus encroach on it, and the house has been there for a little over 100 years, the garage for 60 years, and so the contention in his case is that the public interest will be better served by the vacation. The Kynan County Planning Commission did recommend denial of this vacation based on comments from the state's attorney and highway superintendent that went along the lines of the need for future. Basically, there may be a need in the future for expansion of a section of roadway. We really don't know what the future holds as far as that goes. And then also it could increase the county's liability within what was previous the right-of-way. And then the other point was that it just may set a poor precedent for us to be vacating right-of-way when a building is put within it, regardless of whether it was done knowingly or unknowingly. So from that standpoint, that was where the Planning Commission had recommended denial of that at its last hearing.
Luke, we're talking about that shaded in area there on the north side?
That's correct. There's, for reference, on what's being requested here, there's also a road that goes north and south that's platted in Waverly. That's a township road, and so that's also something he'd be working with the township on as well. But we're only talking about the stretch that is on Central Avenue. It's I should have said this, it's a 12-foot stretch, so he's not requesting to vacate the whole road, no portion that has the road on it, but it's just the right-of-way. It's the portion where his building is. One thing I would point out is that if we did vacate that right-of-way, the structure that sits there itself would still be non-conforming, so it couldn't be rebuilt in that position, in that location, even if we did vacate this right-of-way. But the thing that is helpful is that this is in the town district, so we could still say Act of God came and knocked that building out. The house could still be rebuilt. It would just have to be moved. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Comus, but I'm betting if that came to be, that would probably be a preference anyway if that happened. But that's way down the road.
Okay. Thank you, Luke, for the background. Anyone else wish to address? Mr. Comus, Doug, please come forward and introduce yourself. So remember you're being streamed live, so they know who this good-looking gentleman is that's speaking. Would you please use the mic? Thank you.
It's already.
Is it on?
Yep, it's on.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Doug Comus, and I'm the one requesting this vacation here. And, well, not a vacation, vacate. But, the reason we need to do this is, back in 2008 when President Obama came, there was a real estate collapse there. And that brought on many more laws for the banks to require what they have to do in order to people to get a loan. And my stepson wishes to buy this property, my property. And when the bank had it surveyed, the request for this is came up, I can't expand the road in where my house and garage is anyway. I can't use that land because it's already there. The purpose is mainly, like I say, I need this in order to have my stepson get a loan. And it's, we're caught between a rock and a hard spot, I know, and but got to try what we can here. And so, thank you
Okay.
for your time.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Are there any others that would like to speak to this issue? Are there any others that wish to speak? Are there any others that wish to speak? Seeing none, at this time, I would close the public hearing portion of this agenda item, and then I'll ask the board members, what are your wishes? Do you wish to put this on the agenda for next week and as a action item and act on it at that time? That would be our option, or to not put it on the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we put it on the agenda for next week.
Okay, we have a
Take action.
motion from Commissioner Van Duzen. We have a second by Commissioner Hatton. Is there any discussion?
That makes sense.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It will be on the agenda as an action item next week. Okay? All right. I'm going to alter the agenda just a bit. Jim needs to get to a very important meeting. I think he's planning a vacation or something, or I don't know. No. He's got an emergency management meeting that he needs to attend, so he's got about a 40-page document to read us. So
Which number is
go
this?
ahead, and this is action to authorize the chair to, this is the emergency management SLA document.
The SLA's, what we're talking about is the state and local agreement. As you all know, that the counties get reimbursed for, and I'll just read the bottom portion of the SLA grant is provided to counties to pay for 50% of the emergency management director's salary and administrative costs accrued as a result of maintaining the office of the director. This is an ongoing grant, and this is the same grant that we get each year to reimburse the county for 50% of my salary and 50% of Sherry's salary and our administrative cost up to a certain amount. I haven't got the amount that they're looking at for the upcoming year, but we're just signing this saying that we want to be part of that state and local agreement with the state for this reimbursement.
I'll make a motion that we allow the chairman to sign the document.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hatton. Is there a
Second.
second? We have a second by Commissioner Waterman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and I'll sign it right now. If you want to sign it, then you could. You
No,
got
I
it?
need it.
Oh, you need it.
Yeah, I need it, yes.
I'll get it from
Yep,
Cindy later.
I will pass it along. I need to copy it. So I have something before I send off the
I
original.
thought he wanted to take it with him just to be sure that he did something.
Nope.
Prove that he did something.
All right.
All right.
Right.
Is
Thanks,
that,
Jim.
Thank
is
you
that
very
it?
much.
Jim?
Thanks, Jim.
Off to your meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Rick, for standing by so we could get that out of the way. Okay, number 4, a public hearing on Cottington County Highway 5-year plan. And so as we did in the prior public hearing, we'll do this again. We will, at this time, open the floor up for a public meeting. And anyone wishing to speak to this.
There were updated copies on your desks because
Yeah.
I believe there were some changes to
This
the
is the
original
baby that you wanna
document
look
that I
for.
sent out.
This one right here. So with the public being open, you want to begin the conversation, Rick?
Yeah, the 5-year plan is, basically, it's the items that we've had on the plan for the last, covering 5 years.
Can I
there's just a-
interrupt you for a minute?
Yeah.
I need a list of everybody that's here for this public hearing, so I'm going to pass it around.
Correct.
Please sign the list.
The,
No, that's fine. I got it.
there are a couple of changes to the project's need list. Upon speaking with Brenda, there's a bridge replacement added to the project needs list for that bridge replacement. That's 1 mile north of the county line on 177th Street.
What page are you on?
It's a project's needs list. I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
numbered.
It's not numbered, it's behind the
I
appendix.
see
the
it.
second
Okay.
appendix.
Yep.
And the very bottom item, bridge replacement, and that's in the amount of $1 million, and that is Bridge 15-215-230. This is a bridge that we've discussed in the past. At one point, it was recommended taking it out of the plan and taking it out of the bridge replacement program. It's put back in mainly as a conversation to get it back on the table to discuss in the future. I mean, it's not up for action or construction or anything at this point. It's just an item to put on the plan to get it into a discussion. Another item that was changed on the 5-year plan list on that same sheet at the top item, County Road 20-4 asphalt surface 2 miles. That actually has been put on hold. The reason that was put on hold is the possibility of getting bridge preservation funds to use this year. It doesn't look like we're going to get them to use this year to do them epoxy deck seals. I did got everything approved. The contracts are let. It's just that the contractor probably isn't going to get in this year to do them. So that County Road 20-4 project, that may be put back on for a later date in the 5-year plan, but it didn't get done this year as was initially in the 5-year plan. Them are the only 2 changes to the plan from last year. Was the addition of that bridge and then the postponement of that regrading and asphalting of those 2 miles. Also, looking 5 years ahead, each year we need to do approximately 10 miles of asphalt surfacing and graveling. And I don't have it 5 years ahead which one is going to need these 10 miles of asphalt, but that's put in the year for 2022 also. Other than that, it's pretty much the same document we had last year.
Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this agenda item? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, then I will close this portion of the public hearing, and we will proceed from there. Now, we don't have anything on the agenda to act on it today. And I will get that on the agenda. And
Greg has already scheduled it for October 3rd.
October 3rd.
Yep.
October 3rd.
Okay.
I wanted to visit with Rick before I brought that date up, but yeah, that's...
It's in the document, so if it changes, just let me know. All right.
So did everyone hear that? It'll be on the October.
Right now, October 3rd is the date that
October
Greg's
3rd.
got built
And
into the
everything looks
document.
like it's in place as far as the documents, everything we needed
Okay.
is in place, so that October 3rd should work.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go then to number 5, which involves Rick, action to authorize the chair to sign a contract for chip seal project, and we discussed that, I think, at 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, we've been, any of these projects with this big grant program, paperwork extensive. So we've already had the bid letting, we've already awarded the contract and everything. It just need to have these contracts signed. I have triplicate contracts that need to be signed,
Okay.
and then put them in my mailbox and I'll get them to where they need to go.
I'll entertain that motion.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Hatton, second by Commissioner Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, thank you, Rick.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Rick.
day. Number 6,
We got about 10 minutes before we
Oh.
can, before we can do that, since it's
Sure.
a public hearing.
Yeah, we better wait.
We better
and
go
do
on
it.
schedule.
Yeah, we'll stay on schedule. Let's go to number 7 then. Action to approve a Kemp Addition Tesh additional plat resolution. And Cindy, I think, has,
Nope, Luke has
Luke
those.
has that? Okay, thank you, Luke.
Sure, there should be 2 plats, I think, on your agenda.
Yeah, the Camp Edition and the T and
Team
Yep,
Tesh.
two of
T and
them.
Tesh.
Yep. I might do a 3rd grade style and actually pass them around. Did you have Kemp first?
No.
Which one was on first?
Oh, on
Yeah.
the agenda?
Camp was.
Yes, Camp. Yep.
All right, so the first plat we have here is the, thank you, is the plat of Kemp Edition in the northeast quarter of Section 10 of Waverly Township. This will be the southern portion of Waverly Township. Kemp Edition is a plat. It was a condition of granting existing farmstead approval at last month's meeting of the Planning Commission. How this came about was Mr. Kemp was going through some work on some easements on the rest of his property, and through work with the conservation entities, they realized it would probably be just as easy to plat out the part he wants to keep out of it as opposed to the other way around. So thankfully, in his case, he was able to qualify for an existing farmstead exemption. That's where the 10.21 acres comes from. He does have to plat his access all the way down to him. That's where, as this plat shows up, I'm sure anyone in the audience that wants to take a look at it, I'll have a copy of it to look at, but he wants to he's platting his easement all the way down to it, which crosses the other quarter line, comes from the section line. There's no change to what's gone on the property for the last many years. He's just platting out the portion that he's got. And the access, for what it's worth, is for his own maintenance. It's not for the township to have to maintain.
And I think we should take these separately, so I would entertain a
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we
We have
approve
a
this
motion
plat.
by Commissioner Hatton, a
Second.
second by Commissioner Gable. Any discussion?
So it was determined there is an easement on record for his ingress and egress.
And at this point, it's being platted anyway. So
Okay.
if there wasn't, there is now.
Okay.
Any other discussion? This came before the planning board, and Luke, how did that shake out?
Thanks for the reminder. It was recommended for approval at the Planning Commission at the August meeting. I believe that was August 21st.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, let's do the other one.
Okay, the other plat is a plat of T and Tesh Edition in the southwest quarter, section 22, Township 11851. That's also Waverly Township. Straight northeast, I shouldn't say, it's kitty corner, northeast from Waverly. I don't have the road there. That would be 463rd Avenue is what that's on. This site was granted a farmstead exemption at the end of 2015, if I remember correctly. The condition of it, of course, was to plat the lot itself into a minimum 5-acre plat. That's exactly what's being proposed here. So they're basically completing the requirement of that farmstead exemption. The piece that it's coming out of, this was definitely a farmstead, and just kind of the recap, probably don't need to know all of it, but the parent parcel is 50 acres, which does comply with the farmstead exemption that we have, is that they've got to have A5 and then at least 5 acres and at least 35 acres. They will have both of those, even in platting this.
I'll make a motion that we approve this plat.
We have a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Hatton, second by Commissioner Waterman. Any discussion?
I will point out again, this was also recommended for approval at the Planning Commission meeting in August.
Thank you, Luke. Did you all hear that?
Can I have a copy of the T and Tesh? I didn't get going. Thank you. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Luke.
Thanks, Luke.
Okay. Are we,
We
where are we,
can,
we got 5 minutes yet.
Yeah, we
All
can
right,
do the
let's go on to-
salary claims if you want to.
What's that?
We can do the salary claims, that won't take long, unless you want to do a monthly report that will only be 5 minutes.
Yeah, but let's do Suzanne. Suzanne, SESU Nutrition Education Update. Suzanne, she's not here?
yet. Yep.
Okay. Let's do the, what did you say? Let's do the approval of the
We can
claims.
do the salary claims.
Let's do number 15 then, which is action to approve the claims for payment.
These are the salary claims for the month of August. Total salary claims are $538,068.30. We did have one retirement this month, so we are paying out $7,600 in unused vacation and sick leave that goes direct to the SDRS special pay plan. Saves the county some money. We do not have to pay matching Social Security funds on this. And then the employee has the option of leaving that money in SDRS or withdrawing it at his, he would have to pay tax on it at that time. So this is a program the county participates in to save money for both us and the retiring employee. Anyway, total salary claims, $538,068.30.
And you all have a copy of that? Did you find it?
Yes.
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I have a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Gable
Second.
and a second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, now let's go back. We're close enough to 9:30 now, I believe, pretty close anyway. We still have Luke here, right?
Just
this-
take note of anybody that comes in after.
Yeah,
after we
everyone
start.
that's present needs to sign.
No.
Not for this one?
Not that one. That was the highway one.
All right. What's the difference?
Two different things.
The other one is highway robbery or something? I don't know.
One is a requirement.
One of the requirements, so we want to make certain that we do this according to law, so we don't have any repercussions down the road. That being said, number 6, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 66 to rezone property in Rowville Township. And so at this time, again, it's a public hearing. We have nothing on the agenda that says that we will act on this today. So that being said, I will open up the public hearing at this time. And Luke, do you want to kick it off?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, it's a good thing I stretched this morning so I could get up and down. This request, it's what you've got on the agenda today is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance which would rezone property from ag to commercial in the east 400 of the south 1100 feet of the southwest quarter, section 21, 11852, and that's from ag to commercial, and that's in Rawville Township. I want to clarify, there's a typo in there that says the east 400 and it should be the east 400 of the south 1100 feet.
Do you have
Just to
maps to
clarify
pass out,
that.
Luke?
Oh, I do. I was just having fun reading it. Some of these around here. Yeah. So while that goes around, I will point out, I'll start off kind of backwards on this one. This request was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission on a 5-2 vote at the August 21st meeting. By state law, we have to have a first reading and second reading of any ordinance amendment on a rezoning, and we have to have at least one public hearing. The thing that we also learned is that we make for sure we notice anytime we're going to allow public comment, and that's what we've done here today. The public hearing is going on today. So with that, the applicant does own 116 acres southeast of the railroad in the west half of this section. Immediately adjacent to the property the property is zoned agriculturally. We do have the rural residential zoning district 1.5 miles to the northwest of this place, and a small strip of commercial zoning is located 1 mile east of the property at the intersection of 164th Street and I-29. For reference, as I'm talking about this, for anybody that doesn't know this area, this property is on the north side of 164th Street. 164th Street is the road that heads toward the casino and toward Waverly at the Waverly exit. Thank you. County Road 6. So that kind of gives you an idea. We're talking about slightly over 1 mile west of I-29 on County Road 6. The applicant's proposing to construct a barn to be used for basically a banquet facility, but also to be used as a restaurant with a malt beverage license, which is what they'd probably have to come back for in the future. If the rezoning was approved, as I said, any subsequent commercial use would require a conditional use permit. One of the things that we always bring up at the Planning Commission is all of the uses that could be allowed in the commercial district, of which there are many through conditional use, and they kind of come in as items come up. We handle what conditions may need to be done. One of the issues that we do have in this area is that it is over the Zone A of the Wellhead Protection District for the county. The good news is we do have certain protections for certain storage of what could be of certain types of potential pollutants. The bad news is we don't know everything that could be a pollutant. The particular request that they're going to have doesn't necessarily indicate that there would be any problems with that, but obviously once we rezone property, we got to think about not just 2 years down the road, but 20 years down the road. The Planning Commission considered and ultimately recommended approval despite this area being located in the area of development stability, which is intended to remain free of land uses, which could potentially conflict with agricultural uses. The uses should be directly supportive of ag land uses. But we didn't expect access to be an issue. Testimony at the hearing indicated that the neighborhood was generally supportive, particularly the nearby agricultural land users, which I believe are here in the audience as well, were supportive of the request. So in the end, the Planning Commission did recommend, as I said, approval of this ordinance on a 5-2 vote. And again, as you said, no vote can go on today. It's just a first reading, but we do need to take public comment. The last thing I would point out is that two things. I want to point out two things. One, I'll point out something in defense of myself as far as my job is. My job is to do my best to speak for the land use plan and the zoning ordinance. That's what I'm trying to do here. Also speaking for the Planning Commission, who was slightly different than the land use plan would indicate in this particular case. The only thing that I would point out in the future is that assuming if this does wind up being rezoned, we may need to address in the land use plan or somewhere how this area, this particular location or this area may be different than other parts of the county that would be within there. I think there are ways we can do that, but as of now, it's not listed in the land use plan. So just be advised, we may need to look at that in the not too distant future if we do go down that road.
Thank you, Luke. Thanks for introducing the item. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this?
Can I ask a question of Luke, just real quick? Yeah. Mr. Chairman, sorry. So just to clarify the last point of what you said, I guess you're talking about this list of permitted uses, like there might be one or a few of these might want to consider in this particular case not doing. Is that what you're saying? I'm
just saying that from a standpoint of a land use plan, really when we're rezoning property, we're as we rezone it, we're saying that what could go on there is fine, and it's either a case where we need to identify if it's okay here, why wouldn't it be okay somewhere else? Right. It's more about the place than it is the use. If we're okay within this location, that's fine. It's just that we need to identify what's different about this location than other places.
Is that something that would be covered in the ordinance?
No, it'd be more of a land use plan thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Any others that would like to address the board? Robert?
Yep.
Can you please come
Thanks.
forward and introduce yourself, you and Brenda?
We just ask you to use the microphone.
I'm Bob Becker. We're obviously the ones proposing this. Obviously, we went over all this at the zoning board. I think we're in good shape, other than what Luke just brought up is the reason why this is okay. In our mind, the reason is there really isn't anywhere else in the county like this. We're right on the interstate. We are surrounded by commercial property. The casino's right there. It's not commercial, but there's a full section of gravel pit within a mile to the north of us. Rawville BPI, obviously, you guys are familiar with the area. There's 25 houses or more within 2 miles of us. Not a one of them can see this area. There's no houses out there that can see it, so it's secluded, but yet it's right there on the Blacktop Road. That's really all I have.
Have you spoken with the neighbors in this
I have.
area? Is there any
Some over here.
issues?
They were all at the board meeting.
Okay.
We could have flooded this place with 100 people that think this is a great idea. We just didn't think it was the right thing to do. We're not at building yet. We're at trying to get to build.
Sure.
So
Okay, good.
that's where we're at. If you guys have any questions for me.
Brenda, would you introduce yourself?
I'm Brenda Bedker, and as you said, we were just hoping for your consideration to rezone this to commercial so we can build our event building. That's basically all of it.
All right, thank you. Brenda. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Anyone? Mr. Henricks. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Brett Henricks, represent the adjoining landowners, and I just would like to state that we have no opposition to Bob and Brenda's plan. So that's about all I have to say.
Where are you located from that location?
We own the land directly east of Bob, where Bob's going to put that, and our farm is northeast of in that section, so. Okay, other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Anyone else wish to address? Anyone else at this time wish to address this item? Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And as we said, this was the first reading, and it was a public hearing, and the second hearing.
Second reading and action.
No hearing next time. The second reading will be next week
And action.
at our commission meeting, and we will act on it at that time. Any questions from the commissioners? Are we good to go on that?
Yep.
All right, okay. Well, thank you folks for coming in and supporting your neighbors and sharing with us your thoughts and your ideas on all these issues. That's what we need, is input from you folks out there, so we appreciate it very much. All right, moving on. Monthly report. is,
Number 8.
Number 8. Number 8. Oh, yeah. Suzanne. Suzanne here? There you are. Front forward. We tried to get you on earlier, but there's no Suzanne. Please take the mic and introduce yourself. I'm sorry, my mic was off, so now I'm on.
Yes, well, thank you. Suzanne Sluka. I'm the Food and Families Program Director with SDSU Extension, so I'm located in Brookings. I just wanted to come today to you with, this is really a courtesy. We currently have a nutrition assistant, we call it FNEP, Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program nutrition assistant, that's housed at the county complex. A shift in where we only have so much funding, and the good news is that this program works with limited resource audiences, and we don't have the audience here in congratulations. You because you don't have as many that are in that limited income audience. Now, if we had been able to work with seniors or another audience, then that might be a different story. But I just wanted to thank you for allowing us to have that office space for so long in that position, and just let you know that it's nothing about the person or the position. It's just that we have so many limited funds, and we need to take it to another area in South Dakota that has a waiting list.
Well, we've enjoyed working with you in the past, and I can assure you that cubicle will be filled with some other reason or some other area, I'm sure, very shortly. So thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for
Yep.
your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's go to the monthly reports, and let's go to Extension. Jody, how are you this morning, Jody? Back from the fair. Are you awake yet?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to drive back to work today. Even just across town. Almost fall asleep. Yes, I.
Yeah, it's on.
All right, I just got back last night about 9 o'clock last night after packing up exhibits and everything. Just a review, we just ended State Fair. My part of the State Fair is Youth in Action Contest. So Sonia Mack of Brookings County and we are in charge of the Special Foods Contest at the State Fair and the Fashion Review Contest at the State Fair. So we prepare all the special foods paperwork came to my office from all the across the state. We put all the paperwork together, and we added a shift this year. We actually, is the first time since we've had this new Nordby Exhibit Center, that we had special foods back on the fairgrounds. For the last 4 or 5 years, it's been over at the Huron High School because of Clover Hall being condemned and being full of mold and stuff, that we've had moved over to the Huron High School. So this year, we had a change, and we had to adapt to the new kitchen and everyone trying to fit all those kids into there. So we had 10 shifts of 18 kids each, so a few shifts were a little shorter than others. But we ran through a lot of kids. I'm sure I picked up a few germs from them also. So, but it was really nice. The kids really enjoyed it. The parents enjoyed it too, that they were back on the fairgrounds. Parents didn't have to haul all of their special foods contents all the way over to Huron High School. They were already on the fairgrounds, some of them in their campers. They didn't have to get off and come back on. And even for some of our judges too, they camp there. They get to come right over and judge. And we couldn't do any of those contests without the volunteers, because they're not paid volunteers. They're just there volunteering their time. So as far as the Fashion Review Contest, we have that on Sunday, and they get to come back on stage. And this year the stage was held in the Nordby Center too, so we kind of some more changes there too. There's no stage outside, and so performing arts and all those contests were right inside the Nordby Center. So it's become a big showcase of 4-H out at Huron. So thanks to Earl Nordby. So State Fair, the van's still packed with exhibits. I have to go back and unpack yet and return my state van. So just going to get ready. I haven't got all the results off of iGrow, but all the results are posted on iGrow.org, so the families can just go right on iGrow and see the contests and see how their kids did. They're unofficial yet until everything's completed, but I have seen even some of my beginners got 9th in the state in judging, so I was really pleased. I saw one of them yesterday and had to talk to her about it. She didn't even know about it yet, so I had to show her how to find it. National 4-H Week is coming up October 1st through the 7th. So October 1 actually starts our new 4-H year, so we kind of have an overlap here where we're ending our current year, and our recognition event will be in November, and we're starting our new 4-H year on October 1st. So families will have to start over and re-enroll again too. I recently applied for some grants kind of right at the end of August, and before I went to State Fair, I had to finish another one quick too, but I won't know until November, December for some of these, but I applied for some grants through the Farm Bureau for some archery backstops in case we ever do move the archery back to the extension complex. Pioneer Seed had offered me a grant to apply for. Also, one of our 4-H dads works for them and told me about it. So, and then I applied for some special interest clubs. It's called spin clubs, and you can pick up like nutrition or sewing and some kind of little spin clubs, and you meet for like so many weeks, and even like a cooking one. I thought of doing a fun cooking event at the end. And then
What kind of fun was that?
spin clubs,
Oh, SP?
SPIN, special interests.
Oh, I thought
It's-
you said Sin Club.
Spin.
I just wanted to clarify
I'm sorry, my
that.
cold's not great.
I
A
just wanted to
spin
make sure
club,
everybody
special
understood that.
interest.
Yeah.
We found out about them at the national conventions that we've been at.
Good.
And that's kind of a neat thing for people to do. And then Midco Communications has a grant program too, and we needed a dog fence for our dog program. Right now we're putting up snow fence each time, and even the parents can't see in, so this would be a shorter fence that we can, so everyone can see. They could even put it up during practices also, because we're right next to that parking lot or driveway for Park and Rec, and sometimes they're coming back from baseball games and stuff, you know, in the nights when they're practicing on Wednesday nights, and we're right next to Kemp Avenue with our rally, so we apply for that, and we will find out in November if we get some of that, so. Hopefully.
I don't know if any, and all of you, or if anyone hasn't, that Norby building out there is a wonderful addition to the state fair.
It is.
And if you haven't had an opportunity to visit, be sure and take an opportunity to just go out and see that. Really changes the whole atmosphere of the show and the 4-H exhibits and that.
And they also have the state fair office in there also in the front entrance, so everyone has come in with their camping and things and stuff, so it gets them in the door to come look at 4-H stuff too, so.
Great asset.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman. You said special interests. Would
Club.
that be like a robotics club
You could,
then?
yep. I just gotta get some new robotics.
Okay.
My robots that I have right now, they don't use anymore, they've changed them, so we have to buy new sets, and they're not very cheap either, so.
And how was the turnout on that on Saturday?
I was in the special foods contest while that was going on, so I really didn't get to see much of it. I have worked that program before. In the past, I've worked with the robotics contest in my other years too, so before I worked the special foods contest. So I've had experience with it a little bit. So
I can only give my grandson's opinion, and that was
thumbs up from Caleb.
Good. Anything else? Thank you.
Well, thanks, Jody. Thanks for
Back
applying
to
for those
unpacking.
grants.
Unpack that vehicle.
And that is Darby's position that she's talking about.
Darby's.
Specialist.
Right.
Yep.
So
That's
the
Darby's.
office, yeah,
Yeah.
not in the
Yeah.
regional.
Yep.
Yeah.
And before you leave, I was out there the other day, and the new building, kind of in conjunction with that, our new storage building out there that we're building, the doors are on, and I was out there, I visited with the electrician, and he was wiring the overhead electric doors, and it's probably, well, that was Friday, I think, so I'm sure this week it'll be completed.
It is a
completely
nice
done.
looking building.
It's a very nice looking building.
Yeah.
They got the partitions
nice.
inside, but the regional office will be using
I saw some walking over there this morning already.
oh, I thought maybe you were going to back your vehicle in there and unload it.
No, it's
Oh.
in the South Expo right now.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
Veteran Service Officer, good morning, Al. Thank you for hanging in there and waiting.
Okay, for the month of August,
Please, thank you.
we had 92 appointments with walk-ins and 3 home visits. We had 4 trips to Sioux Falls with 9 riders. The week of August 14th, I was out in Pierre for just about the full week of training. It went very well. We're still keeping busy in the office, and our next big thing is Veterans Day coming up in November.
Share with us the movie, the tribute. I called Al the other day to get the specifics on it. I didn't go because I'm going to be watching it on the tube.
Thank you, Myron. On Tuesday, the American Legion hosted the screening of the Vietnam War that was put together by Ken Burns, who's nationally known for his documentaries, movies, and it was an excellent movie. We got to see about 5 to 8 minutes of each segment, and there's 10 segments, and the total length of the movie is 18 hours long. And it's very, it gives both sides from our side and the North Vietnamese side, so it's very interesting how things back then works the same way as they do now, because they had audio tape of President Johnson on the phone with Washington Post reporter calling him a blankety-blank liar because he never puts the true news out there, that what's really happening. So it's kind of happening now. They had fake news back then, and they got fake news now, so it never changes. But it's going to be very interesting. It's well worth watching. It's going to be on 2 different times starting September 17th. So,
Niles Davis, who
Niles Harris.
Harris, excuse me, who was the basically the individual that the song by Big and Rich, the 8th of November, was written after, was at the State Fair. He was a guest there for their show, and he commented and talked highly of that special and everything that happened here in Watertown. So
he gave a great speech. He's very to the point, and he basically said that if U.S. government would have kept their nose out of it, we would have won that war hands down. Got my picture taken with him. Very nice gentleman, really is. Good guy.
Good.
Thank you, Al.
Good word. Thank you, Al.
Weeds. Steve. I always need to be careful when I say that. Weed supervisor. Our horticulturist.
Not quite.
Record
here. To start out in Sabat, this last month I went out and helped pick up the tents from the poison hemlock moth releases. A lot of it, there was nothing much in the tents that we discovered. In fact, there was no vegetation in the tents for some reason. So we'll see. We'll put the tents back next spring again and see if we can start noticing anything. We have started our fall spraying this past week on the state roads. We will continue on them and then proceed to go to townships and county roads after we had finished the state roads. Then also attended the state fair, worked a beet booth on Saturday. Lee had stopped by at the booth. Questions asked there. Really, there was probably more of people wanted to know what certain weeds were. They didn't really know. Didn't get really into much of, for a lot of times in the past, it's been always about lawns and crabgrass, but there hasn't been a huge concern because I think the drier weather this year has kind of held them off, and so there are not a lot of people asking those questions on that. They did have at the booth some beans, 3 different bean samples there of dicamba damage at different stages of what the beans were. That was probably one of the bigger topics at the state fair, questions asked. I do know that other states, they are writing up new deals for applications of the dicamba, so we'll see what happens with that. As far as I know, I believe the state has reported to investigate over 180 investigations of dicamba damage, and I believe the survey, there's over 1,000 of the survey that's been reported to the state on the dicamba. Coming up next week, the weed tour for in the southeast region will be, the commission meeting will also be then next week also for the state boards. Topic on there is going to be one of the things that is on the topic of that, and that is the railroads. The railroad has been kind of a little bit slack in the last year or so on their noxious weed control. They did do some spraying. We're going to investigate a little bit. A lot of the corners, of the intersections are looking pretty good, but we've noticed some spots out between each intersection that they really haven't attacked. So, but I do know that's on the agenda for the meeting. Then, I guess going to mosquito, have done some fogging. High populations of mosquitoes have been up in the Wallace and Florence area due to the heavy amount of rain they've had about 3 weeks ago. In fact, even now, Henry kind of set a trigger from the trap we had picked up on Thursday. I will be contacting them again if they want to fog. And to speak of Memorial Park, we're planning on fogging Memorial Park on Thursday night. There's a vintage car show that is in town this weekend. I know there's been some requests. Milo has got it to turn around and spray some Temple around some barrier to help with some mosquitoes. But also, because the numbers have been going up and the weather looks like it's going to be pretty good, we decided we're probably going to be fogging probably Thursday night out at Memorial Park.
I hope everybody has noted the monarch butterflies. In this past week, they're back.
Yeah,
They weren't here
It's
for
not
a
all
while.
monarch. I can't remember. There's another one that's closely the same. They're a little bit smaller.
Yep, they are. Yep.
These
I
are
don't know
not
if they
all
have-
monarch. The monarch are larger, and then you have the smaller one. I can't remember exactly
It's a
what
small
the name
monarch.
of that. Yeah, it's a small, but it's actually it's a different.
I was wondering,
related in the family.
I've noticed them especially around, well, I guess they're all over, but I know going out of town on County Road 11, Old 81, first mile or so, and there's soybeans on both sides of the road, and they were
Yeah.
just thick the other day. I mean, they were just,
Yeah,
laying
they're
on.
starting to migrate is what they're doing. They're
And
migrating from the north.
But for about 2-3 years, we haven't had any.
No.
So it's good to see them again.
Right.
They have to eat something on the way, and I'm sure it's
Yeah,
it's
and
good for
they're
us.
they're into the flowers and getting all the pollinating what they can get. So
I was just going to ask you that question myself. My wife and I took a trip out of town to Hoven on Sunday, and the butterflies were just so thick. I mean, it was incredible. I've never
they're
seen that
migrating.
before.
But it's not all monarchs. The monarchs are larger. They're a lot bigger. I can't remember exactly what the.
We'll
I
just
think I
call
took
them
about
small.
half of the population out with the car, though.
I do know
But-
that they are different. It's not really all the monarchs that you're seeing. All the small
Are you
ones.
thinking of that Viceroy butterfly?
Yeah, I believe so.
Similar to a
Yep,
monarch?
it's similar to a monarch. Yep.
Are they tough to pull out of your teeth, right?
No, it was, yeah, thank goodness, because we thought about taking the motorcycle. Thank goodness we took the car instead.
To
But,
update
it
and
was
stuff
a mess.
also on the mosquito and stuff like that. The last report is 44 West Nile, 44 in the state. Connington County still leads as of 4. So
The only call I've got this week was about 2.5 miles west on 4th Avenue on the north side of the road. The question was if you'd even sprayed out there this year. There's a bunch of Canadian thistles that are going to seed now. It's too late, but if you want to take a look at that sometime, it's
there's
somewhere
a
along
lot
that.
of a lot of people cut some hay early this year, a little bit back in June. There's a lot of stuff that is really coming up. I mean, those spots will hit, and so that, and that's where the Tordon will hit the spots with the Tordon in next year, and so that, hopefully it's less. The mapping deal is helping. Discovering something so that new now. We had started fall spraying, and I need to change the color. So hopefully that it will overlay to where we had sprayed once, and then the other color will show up for the fall spray to indicate spots. That's one of the main purposes of the data logger is to indicate those spots.
Any more questions for Steve? Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
Have a
Steve.
good week. All right, number 10, action to authorize the welfare director to advertise for a part-time clerical position, less than 20 hours. And if you look in your packet, Sarah and I think, this is it. It's stapled together. Anyway, they worked on, you two have anything that you would like to add to what's on this handout that you gave to us this morning?
Well, the job
This is
description
Chubb.
is the basic clerk position in common department.
You need to get him on the mic so you can hear that, Don.
Appreciate it.
Could you come on up? You're just trying to avoid coming up and getting on TV, aren't you?
I hope you shaved this morning.
This is your opportunity, see?
They can still see you in the corner.
Who are you anyway?
It's on, Terry.
It's on yet.
It's on.
I'm Terry Satterley, the Human Resource manager for Cottington County. The job description that's submitted for this position is a typical clerk position that many of the county offices have.
Okay, and we're looking for action to authorize.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion
Second.
by Commissioner Hatton, a second by Gable. Commissioner Gable, any discussion? I guess my discussion would be, are we going to advertise this immediately? Is that the
It's a normal
plan?
procedure.
Okay. And with hopes of hiring ASAP?
Yes. Typically what happens is once the board approves the position, people start contacting the Department of Labor looking for applications. So once it's approved, then we'll advertise it and get the information to the Department of Labor.
Okay. thank
And
you.
we advertised in the public opinion
Yeah, public opinion and
that
shopper.
applicants can go to the Department of Labor.
Right.
So they know where to. They should not stop here in the courthouse, correct?
Correct.
And this is for a part-time clerical position, less than 20 hours per week.
Yes.
Correct. Yep.
Remember to advertise it internally.
Our personnel policy has a section in it that says that any job openings can be advertised internally and should be advertised, and they should be advertised internally and externally.
Okay.
Something like that.
So this goes to 3 different places, then South Shore.
We don't advertise the job openings in South Shore. We're not required. It's not a public notice. So we focus on the Coteau Shopper and the public opinion.
Good questions. Any other
We
questions?
haven't upped it yet to Facebook.
Oh, the Department of Labor, they put it out on several.
The county does not have a Facebook page.
Thank goodness.
Does anything ever put on the website?
We have not. I don't know where you would put it exactly.
I'm not aware of it being on our
No,
website.
we have not put anything on the website
Career
before.
opportunities link or something to the website eventually.
Might not
Job
be.
openings
Yeah, it might be something easy.
down the road.
We'll see.
All right. Any more questions?
We can look into that.
Right.
Discussion for Terry. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for your work on that,
putting
Thanks,
this
Terry.
Together.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, now Milo. Milo will come in with his cane. I don't know, are you going to take a swing at us this morning or in reference to number 12, discussion action on a request from the campground managers for a household pet?
Yes, good morning. Based on our contract with the campground managers, there is to be no household pets unless...
Without consent of the board.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. I wasn't this prepared. No pets will be allowed in the manager's office or living quarters without the written consent of the Cottington County Board of Commissioners. So they have requested permission for a household pet. It happens to be a small dog.
It's not a kangaroo or anything.
No kangaroos or mountain lions or anything like that.
Have we allowed this in the past with any of
We
our other?
have. And actually, we just added this into the contract with the Sowers this time. We never had it in the contract before. Other managers have had pets.
My experience is in the past that it's not the pets that cause the trouble, it's the pet owners.
Yeah.
If we could train them, we're all right, or if they're trainable, or if they aren't already trained, right? So they take care of their pets, that's generally not a problem.
And I don't have any particular heartburn with this request. I'm a pet lover myself. The only issue would be, there is some liability to the county if, the pet would attack a customer or something, but
Can you bring if you're camping there, can you bring your pet?
pets are allowed.
See, so that's what I was thought, so they're around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be to to permit this. but
I'll make a
that's-
motion that we allow them to have a
We have a motion by Hatton. Is there a second?
Second.
By Van Dusen. Is there more discussion?
I just have one thing or some things about that. Being pet owner is mine, and the liability is, I don't think, a great problem. But how do we control it if somebody comes in with a Pomeranian and the next people want to bring in a Doberman?
That's why it has to be brought before the board.
Individual.
Yeah, individual. Yep.
Individual
Request.
case, you know, so,
Because if there's any issues with this, it can be revisited
correct.
Right.
Good question, Charlie. Any other thing?
Just
Anything else?
how small is small?
5 pounds?
Okay, all right. That's a subjective term, so that's.
Yep, ankle biter.
It's not a Great Dane.
A yapper, right? Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. And Milo, you got number 13, and review of KARR Tuck Point proposal for courthouse. And you might just explain that, what we're dealing with there.
Okay, this is a proposal for maintenance repair on the courthouse building itself. They have it labeled as a proposal for masonry preservation. I guess I'll start off. CAR is at least a regionally known company for doing this type of work. They work on courthouses and auditoriums and public buildings all across the land. So they come very highly recommended, and with a list of information and contacts for us. So maybe I would start out, if you want, they are willing to send a representative up. They are out of Vinton, Iowa. They're willing to send a representative up to meet with you folks if you would like. They get that you don't want a long, drawn-out presentation. You know, they'll keep it short and to the point, and that's where we're at.
Do you know, Milo, sometime in the last 40 years, I think we have had this done, but it's probably been almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, I couldn't say.
Yeah.
I know there was
Before
extensive
it was
work
before
done on
you.
the building back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And we did some tuck pointing work, I'm going to say in about 91 or 92. Actually, we just had a local person come in and do some areas that I had highlighted.
Okay. I can probably look through the minutes to see when the last time.
You know, this actual proposal would involve power washing the exterior of the courthouse. You know, you'll notice where all the black stuff is in various places. Basically, that's just pollution. But they would clean up the limestone of the courthouse itself. They would also be able to inspect seam by seam at that point, looking for damage. In here, there are pictures that they've taken of mortar joints that are damaged. So it's a fairly comprehensive proposal here, but we would be looking at doing tuck pointing mortar joints where needed, repairing construction joints and sill joints with the appropriate caulk that is needed. That would be resealing each individual window frame on the entire courthouse. I would be removing the old stuff. The old stuff is just almost like concrete now. You know, at one time it was flexible caulk of some sort. But that is an issue that we have today. You know, with the driving rain from a certain direction, we do have water that will infiltrate around the window frames. You know, so that's, you know, making a long story short, that's what this is all about. The proposed price tag on this for the Cottington County Courthouse work area number 1 is $58,992. You know, and that is spelled out in here. And work area number 2 is identified as brick masonry work. on the backside of the parapet walls. That's the walls up on top of the courthouse. I call them knee walls. And they have some pictures in here, kind of showing what they're referring to. So that's their price tag. This tells the whole story about car tuck pointing and with their insurance policies and their customer list and anything you ever wanted to know about a car.
In the handout, it's got 64,000.
Yeah, that was the two added together.
Oh, okay.
The 58,000 plus the 5,000.
Okay.
And so that should take care of the whole project.
That would be the whole project.
How long do they figure it would take, or when would they be able to do it?
They would not be able to start this until 2018, which brings up another issue, actually a couple of issues that we need to work through. I had included over $40,000 in the 2017 budget for doing this kind of a project, and I had included $20,000 in the 2018 budget to continue this project. And it turns out my figures were actually pretty close, but they will not be able to get started in 2017 if we would approve this done. So what we would have to do, there's no way to stick this money, into a fund to save it for next year. Right. So that unused money would go into the general fund. We could increase our 2018 budget by $42,000, for that request to cover it. So it's not like it is a last minute raise in what I'm requesting for 2018, but it's really money that normally would have been spent this year that was budgeted for.
Right.
Okay, so that's item number one. Item number two, and Cindy might be able to help with this. I did not get in touch with the Department of
I did.
Audits, but this is kind of a specialized job, and it does go over the bid limit. But being a specialized job like this, I'm not sure how we can put it out to bids.
And what did they say?
No, I'm sorry. What I asked them about was the ag building roof. I did not ask them about the, well, wait a minute.
I think, if I may.
No, I was asking about the ag bill. I did not ask about the tuck pointing.
So that would be another question we'd have to clear up, prior to approving to do this.
Right.
If there are other vendors, though, that could do this job, then it would be a requirement to bid.
Yeah, I think you almost have to, even if it's specialized, you almost have to put it out to bid. You might just get the one proposal, but you still need to do it. I'm pretty sure when I was looking at something else, I'm pretty sure that's the case.
I think you're right.
I think they would probably agree with that.
Question, Milo, did they approach you or did you approach this car company?
I approached them.
It's ironic. I just had somebody the last couple of days ask if there was something that we could do to get the black coloring off the courthouse. You know how it looks dirty.
Yeah.
And they said, is there anything you can do? And I said, well, I know that's a soft sandstone or something, and I know power washing it doesn't work. And they said, well, it's...
You have to be careful with what you do, and that's why I have not had my staff tackle it.
So Milo, how do they do that? Is it a chemical that they use that gets that off there?
They have a pressure, they use pressure washing, and it's with the controlled nozzles.
Okay.
And so I really can't answer that question exactly, but I did ask that question of them. How do you do it without damaging what we have?
Use a fire hose.
And a point of interest, actually, after the fact, I found out that these people did the work on the Hamlin County Courthouse just in the last few years.
And what was their result? Have you talked to them?
Well, actually, I just talked with Dave Schaefer down there, and he,
Emergency management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his take on it, he was real happy with what they did.
All right.
So I didn't necessarily come today to ask for approval of this project, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Well, what
That's
you,
good.
what we
To
need to
see.
be talking about is the budget, and adding on to next year's budget if that's the wishes of the board.
Correct.
And we,
And that
That's-
needs to be done pretty quick,
pretty quickly.
Be by
Right, 'cause we're gonna be
26th when you adopt the
finalizing.
budget, yeah. We can take everything at once on that day if you want to.
Okay.
There are some other adjustments, which we'll discuss when we get to the provisional budget.
Yeah. All right, any questions, any more questions for Milo? We appreciate you doing that, Milo. It's,
You're welcome.
Be nice if we could get it cleaned up and.
You know,
and
if you would like to, if anyone of you'd like to take a look at this book, or at this proposal, please come down to my office, or I can leave it with Cindy. You know, I mean, it's got some pictures and some very good examples of the work that would get done.
Good.
Well,
All
that's
right.
it.
Thank you, Milo.
Thanks, Milo.
And thanks for the foresight in putting it in the budget and being that close. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I amazed myself. I don't-
60,000 and it was 59, almost 59,000.
That's pretty
That's
close.
pretty good.
That's a pretty good job.
Thanks, Milo.
I wonder if he's got some inside.
I'd rather be lucky than good. Let's put it that way.
I wonder if he has some inside information. All right, let's go on number 14. Just an item here, note payment from Dakota Sioux Casino per agreement for contract service. And if you look in your packet, there is a letter, and the letter indicates here, it just says, there is not an increase in the gambling revenue in 2016. Therefore, we are enclosing the previous year's amount of payment of $75,000. If you have any questions, please contact us. And in our original agreement, and that's also in your packet, it talks about the increments in which the casino had promised that they would, give increments. But in the fine print in there, it does say that if in fact they do not realize an increase in their profits, they don't and are not obligated to make that increase in the payment. I think when we wrote that, we probably should have had some way of indicating how in the world. I guess we got called on there, didn't we?
You got to kick the adapter under that.
And how do we know if they make a profit or not? I mean, that's my question. Where are the books? Well, where can you tell? And if any of you, and the reason I make these comments is because I live very close to the casino, and I tell you what, there's not a lot of people going out there anymore. They've just driven a lot of the people away because of poor payouts, and just doesn't seem to be functioning the way it was originally or the way it has in the past. And I've heard nothing but doom and gloom from people that attend the facilities out there. Commissioner Waterman, you were going to make a comment.
Well, first question is when is this compact up?
Actually, the funding for it goes through 2021.
Okay.
And a little bit of background on how this came up. I got the check. I get 2 checks a year from the casino. And I was expecting a check for $112,500 per our contract. So I got a check for $75,000 and nothing else. So I sent it back to the casino saying, per our contract, this check was supposed to be for $112,500. Finally, after not hearing anything for a few weeks, the treasurer made a call to the casino, and they indicated over the phone that it was because the revenues they expected were not realized. In the meantime, I had an email from Roberts County Auditor, who, when they got their check, they actually got a letter saying that the revenue was going to remain the same because the revenues did not increase for 2016, whereas the check that came to us gave no indication of why it was not for the correct amount. So since that time, we have received the check back for $75,000, and then on Friday, August 4th, I did get this letter, which you all have a copy of, saying that the revenues did not go up as anticipated, but we have nothing to back, we received nothing to back up this letter.
Yeah, it's their word, and that's good enough. I mean, not good enough, but that's their word, and that's what they're basing it on.
And the contract does say if the revenues are not realized, that this would happen, but once again, there's no indication of what a balance sheet or anything like that.
I did have an opportunity to read a letter that Roberts County has sent and forwarded to the governor's office in response to the governor had apparently met with them, and they had requested an opportunity to renegotiate the agreement with the state.
And this is the Sisseton-Wahpeton tribe as a whole.
Anyway, the letter indicated the same as what we just talked about here, that they had not seen any increase, and it's under new management out there, and I think a lot of people are questioning what's going on. And anyway, in that letter, they apparently expressed their concern about renegotiating the agreement that Roberts County and Cottington County both had signed. So that being said, there's no action to take on this other than the fact to acknowledge that we, Commissioner Van Dusen?
Can I have Cindy just explain what those contracted services are, what that money is received
for ambulance, law enforcement, and road services, I believe.
And how is it divided?
Exactly.
Well, the city gets a portion.
The city gets a portion of it. The city gets a third of each payment. The county gets 2/3. And of our 2/3, we pay Rawville Township a portion each month or each year based on their current tax levy. So they got a payment of a little over $1,100 based on the $70,000 or $50,000 that the county got.
It's to, Mr. Chairman, to avoid any confusion being this is streamed live, is the $75,000 check that we got, do we have to split that with the city, or did the city get their own check?
Nope, I apportion it out to the city and to Rawville Township. So we will get one more payment where I will give a portion of that to the city, $25,000.
So, and again, that money is received from them for law enforcement, emergency medical services, and roadways.
Yeah, fire and ambulance services and road services is what the contract.
So what do we wind up with as a base? What
We get just under $75,000 per year because we pay the $1,100 to Rawville Township out of our portion. The city gets $50,000.
But the city gets a separate check?
Nope, it comes to me and I send it out to the city because we have a funding agreement with the city also for the split of this. So
the total is $150,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
100 correct.
Okay.
Per year.
Per year. Yep.
Because then they
it was supposed to go up to $225,000 in 2017 and 18. So when I estimate revenue, I estimate that we're going to get about $75,000 in the highway, or $100,000 in the highway budget, and we will.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. Okay. Any other questions in reference to that item?
The city did have some questions also on, is there any action we should take to request verification of the...
That would be a question probably for Patrick. If it's not in the contract, is there some way that we can still require them to?
Contractual issue.
Yeah, I don't know. Can we?
Yeah.
There's no place in that existing contract that says that they will provide the
No.
data?
No, never
No,
was.
there is not.
And they're probably, it was basically the same contract that was in place before that.
It is.
So it never ever was.
All right, let's go on then to another public hearing. We haven't had any for ages, and now we got inundated with them, and this is a public hearing on the 2018 provisional budget. With that being said, I'm going to open the meeting up to a public input on the 2018 provisional budget. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the 2018 provisional budget? Is there anyone in the audience? Speak now or forever hold your peace until next week when we do it again, I guess. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of this item. And we had a couple of items that we talked about here, and we'll discuss those as we get down the road. Is that all right, Cindy?
And I can give you a little bit of information. The county's tax request that we can receive each year is capped based by consumer price index and growth. So currently this year, that's at 2.5% that we can request over last year's tax revenue, property tax revenue, letting us levy just over $190,000 over what we received last year. There's been a change to that, and it will be reflected in the provisional budget when we adopt it. The city has, there is a TIF district that has been paid off. Tax increment financing district is what that is, and that's been paid off. So the value of that TIF district, the county, the city, the school, and the water district have not received any tax money from the properties in that TIF district. The properties do pay property tax, but the monies that were accumulated from those taxes were used to pay off infrastructure of the TIF district. So that has been paid off, which means that the value, which is just a little over $4 million, can now be generated for the city, the school, the county, and the East Dakota Water District, which means that we have a little bit more growth than I estimated before. I've just gotten those, just getting those. I have not got the official word from the city yet because they had to publish the dissolution of the TIF district, and their publication does not become final until like the 22nd of September, which we're anticipating that we're going to have this extra value. So it'll let us levy an extra $13,000, which is $13,000 that we didn't have before. So that'll be one change when you adopt the budget. You'll look at the line, it's on about the back sheet of that. Did you get that?
Estimated revenue.
The revenue piece or the?
I sent you the provisional budget Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, the Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
just now?
Yeah, a little bit ago. And it's on about the back page. It'll say 311 current property tax. It's not a sheet like that. It was an
Right
Excel.
here,
Yep,
right
this one like this, right here.
It's this one right here.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
that's an Excel one?
On about the back page, it shows you that we can levy $7.9 million in property taxes. We can add about $13,000 to that now with the dissolution of that TIF district.
I didn't have that. I have the PDF version, so let me put this up here.
Okay, and I had sent you the,
See what it looks like?
I have the older.
yeah, I had sent you the Excel spreadsheet that shows how much is being budgeted in each.
You
Each
gave us
fund.
a copy of that.
Yeah, I got-
right?
Yep,
I'll put it
each
up there.
fund, and then it also shows you where our other revenue comes from. So out of property tax, the county levies just over $8 million. And then our other revenues come to about $1.8 million, which balances our $10 million general fund budget.
That 2.5, what portion of that is the CPI?
1. CPI is 1, and the growth is 1.5 at this point. That'll increase slightly when I can add in that TIF value.
Everybody hear that?
Say that again, please.
Any more questions?
That's the budget.
Yep, that's the bottom line budget. General fund, road and bridge fund, 911. If you scroll up a little bit, you can see the line I'm referring to.
Oh, okay.
311. Yeah, right there.
Okay, yeah, right
Current
here.
property tax levy. We'll be able to increase that by about $13,000 before the budget's adopted.
When will we make those changes in the budget? Will we wait till the tail end of?
Let's wait till the last day so we can, just do everything at once, if that's okay.
Can I just mention a few things, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Just for, as we're thinking about a few things that over the course of the last few months, we've been talking about this. Number one, the mental health professional that we have in the jail right now. We're talking. There was some discussion about increasing the hours there, possibly. So that's one thing I think we need to keep in mind. This kind of came out of the stepping up workshop that we had. Let's see, it was 2 weeks ago, and just seeing the utility of that in the jail. And I think the jail, the sheriff, and the welfare office would all agree that that has been a very useful thing in the jail. But right now that person is on 20 hours a week. So looking at what we should do to increase the benefit of that, and possibly, hopefully bring down the jail population a little bit over time. And then the other thing that I mentioned 2 weeks ago at the last meeting, this has been a topic in by the way, I don't know what that amount is. I think it's over $20,000 is what we're talking about annually to increase that mental health professional, but that's probably a low end estimate. And then the other thing in the discussion with the Justice Advisory Committee about facilities, and we talked about the second jury courtroom in the courthouse, and then needing to move all the offices, several offices around to optimize the space as a result of needing to clear the space where the current equalization office is. So that's a nice big room. It would be a good second jury courtroom. So basically the bottom line is, when we're talking the one office that would likely go out of the courthouse would be the county nurse, because there's less of a need for that office to interact with other offices, other county offices. So we looked at we're in the process of researching that topic. But the rent, that means one of the things that the county typically does is provide space. We pay, I think it is 2 salaries or 1.5 salaries for clerical personnel down in that office, and then we also provide space. So in other counties where this has had to happen, the county pays the rent for the county nurse, even though that's a state office. So just to clarify with everybody, for that. And the rent we're looking at, I think, is probably in the $22,000 area per year. That would include utilities, at least one of the spaces we're looking at. So we're looking at one space that's very close to the courthouse. It would be actually location-wise, it's really good for the downtown and everything. But that would be something that we would be looking at on the county nurses portion of the budget, most likely. And we're in the midst of researching that right now. And since I'm mentioning it, been talking with the State Department of Health, so they're discussing it. We're having a good conversation about the matter. So
this is not the first time that offices have moved. In fact, the Director of Equalization used to be housed in the office that was the state's attorney's office, and then all the offices just started getting larger. Originally, the city of Watertown had their own city assessor. The county had a Director of Equalization. Back in I'm guessing it was the 80s, those two offices were combined and everything was then housed here in the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And originally the office where the director is now was a community room. It was used for a polling place. It was used for community functions. If the county had a presentation to put on for its employees, it took place in there. But just because the county, the staff has grown to accommodate all the services, that's why things have been shifted. So
basically, since we think this might happen in the coming year, then this is probably something we need to think about for that part of the budget, for the nurses part of the budget. And I forget which. I can pull it up if people want to see it, but essentially that's
Oh, the nurse's budget would be up on about line,
There it is, I got it.
did you find it? Okay.
40
Yeah, line
four-
62.
Yeah, so page 37, is that the right page?
Yeah, that is the right page. I'm
Yeah,
looking
okay.
at the spreadsheet, yes.
Oh, okay.
The nurse's budget is currently $70,631.
So I'm guessing somewhere around line 429, we'd be looking at something, I don't know if that'd be the other current expenses, so.
Correct, and that's where the contract is currently, that we have with the state is under 429.
Okay.
And that's
So
14.5.
that's 14.5 right now, so we'd probably be looking at an increase of
Their
about.
postage is also in there, so,
Postage
yeah.
is in there too.
Yes.
That's a lot of postage. Okay.
Yeah, the contract is not that total amount, but almost all of it.
So if, as we're,
22,000 or so would be in addition to that amount then?
yeah, so
How much did you say?
22,000 about, yeah, that would be rent and utilities. That's an estimate at this point, but I've been talking to one of the property owners downtown, so you know, a lot of good things about the particular site we're looking at. So for as far as access and things like that, and the size of the facility and everything. So, but that's a topic of research. I can cover that more in the open, since I don't want to get straight too far from budget stuff.
And you said it would be possibly a $20,000 increase for the mental health.
Well, I'm thinking that one of the things that came out of the discussion on the Stepping Up initiative was the value of having that mental health professional in the jail. Right now, and it's very hard for that person to get done the work that they're doing within the 20 hours that he's spending in the jail.
Right.
So we're seeing benefit from that.
And it is actually a function of the jail. It's not a function of
Right.
the welfare office where
Right.
at the
That's
time we
what's coming
started
out
it,
Yeah, I
the
think-
budget,
Yeah, as
the
far as
decision was made to budget out of there.
yeah, as far as where what page of the budget we put that on, I guess you could look at putting it in the jail.
It's a
part.
shift. It would be a shift. You would, you know,
Or-
if Sarah has budgeted
Yeah.
for it, you would move that into the jail, take it out of Sarah's budget.
Yeah.
Would be my opinion.
Or
It should be jail.
yeah, or well, we also have the mental health community mental health portion of the budget that does also provide some of the services that we had dealing with mental health for the jail already. So that might be another part of the budget, but that's kind of a technical issue where
It's just moving the money from one budget
which
to the
page
other.
we have
Yeah.
it on. So,
But I'm just wondering, an increase of, you don't know?
I don't know, but I'm thinking it's going to be over that 20,000.
Okay.
So
We don't know what
to be
the-
quite honest, yeah.
What is it now? It's $1,500 a month? Is that what it is?
No,
No,
it's
it's based on the number of clients that are seen,
That's,
isn't it?
There's so many
yeah, it's an
hours.
estimate. I have to go back and get
I
that.
will have to, yeah.
But we did.
See
Let
what I
me
can find.
research that one over the course of the month. Between Sarah can help me with that, and HSA can help us with that.
Sure.
The one thing to keep in mind though is we have to make sure that we're adhering to the bidding rules if we're, because that was done as a separate memorandum and contract. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well.
Okay,
Thanks.
anything else? All right, then, I guess we closed the public portion of that a while ago, so we can move on then to item number 18, and that's the burn ban, and I think we're all right yet. I didn't even ask Jim or anyone, but I think we should be okay in the burn ban so far, but out in my direction, it's dry and we need rain again. I know it's hard to believe, but we could use another one. How about number 19, action to approve automatic budget supplements? Do we have any?
We do. We have received reimbursement from the state of South Dakota for a historic preservation grant that we are sponsoring for the Kompeska Heritage Museum, and we can supplement their budget with $819.60 for some things that we paid out for them. And then we can also budget all the individual budgets that were affected by the hailstorm and damage to vehicles. We received a check from our insurance company for $55,304.40. And per legislative audit, we can supplement each budget so that department is not hampered by the cost of unanticipated damage to vehicles. So part of that will go to the Road and Bridge Fund, part of it will go to Emergency Management Fund, the rest of it will go into the general fund, and then I will split it out per department based on the damages they received from for their vehicles.
That
Move
include
to,
damage to the roof?
No, the damage to the roof is, at the Ag Building, is over 300,000. And I did receive word that we would have to bid that, even though it was an insurance reimbursement. We will have to bid out that project to fix it. But we can also use the insurance money as an automatic supplement to that budget at the time.
We're not having any trouble out there with leaks or anything yet, though, are we? So we can wait till next spring? Could we spend that next?
That's the plan. I have not even contacted contractors yet. I have not seen the insurance adjustment report. So
And I haven't either. I haven't seen a check yet either, but we just received verbal contact from our local agents. And regardless of when we do the project, we can use the automatic supplement, whether it's this year or whether it's in 2018.
And I say that only because I just didn't see them shingled in the spring so they could seal up over summer. That's why we don't have to spend it now.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Move to approve those budget supplements.
Okay, we have a motion
second.
by Commissioner Hatton and a second by Van Dusen. Seconded.
Gable.
Gable. Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any personnel changes? We have some.
We have several personnel changes, a few more than when I sent them out to you. Brian Bleeker is building maintenance at the courthouse. He's due his anniversary step increase to step 9. I do not have his amount, new pay rate. I will get that, I have to get that from the personnel or the payroll officer, but it will be per our payroll resolution. Scott Swanson is lead building maintenance at the Ag Building. He'll go to step 9, $20.41 an hour. Steve DeVille is building maintenance at the courthouse. He'll go to step 10, $18.50 an hour. That's also an anniversary step increase. Mary Franson is the deputy register of deeds. Her anniversary step increase will go to step 10, $22.30 an hour. Matt Blackwelder is a work release coordinator at the detention center. He will go to step 9, $21.45 an hour. J.C. Slosher is been hired to fill our part-time correctional officer pool. She will start at step 1, $17.20 an hour. And I think that is the end of the personnel changes.
I'll make a motion to
We have
approve.
a motion by Van Dusen,
Second.
second by Gable. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. And I know we have some travel requests also.
The first one is a community health nurse secretarial clerical position. Purpose of travel is EWIC, and that meeting is in Pier. It's a one-day, yep, that's a one-day travel. The weed and pest supervisor, Steve Mollengraft, has requested permission to attend the 2017 state weed tour. That is also a one-day meeting. Highway Superintendent Rick Small has requested authorization to attend the Regional Local Road Conference in Rapid City. That is a 2-day meeting. The Chief Correctional Officer is requesting travel for 2 of the part-time correctional officers to attend the Terminal Operator course in Pier. That is also a one-day training. And the Chief Correctional Officer is requesting to attend the JDAI conference in Sioux Falls. Looks like that is a 2-day meeting.
You've heard it.
Move to approve those travel
Motion
requests.
by Hatton.
Second.
Second by Waterman.
No, by
Gable.
Any discussion? He was waving at me, so.
all right.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Any old business?
Chairman, just to,
Yes.
I have a few things to cover. One is the CCJC meeting. You may have seen the email, but since we're still in the process of doing a lot of the research about what I was mentioning before about trying to make space for a secondary courtroom in the courthouse and seeing what the impact would be process-wise and cost-wise, that was a recommendation of the CCJC at the last meeting to go ahead and dig into that, basically. And so we're still digging, and so we're not going to meet tomorrow night with the or I'm sorry, a week from today. So we won't do that scheduled meeting. We'll just wait until October, just in respect of everybody's time, because we still need to do some more of that research. It's just taking a little while, and so that would be October 10th would be the next CCJAC meeting, and just to update folks on what's going on with that bit of research. Like I mentioned before, had a good discussion with Mr. Scott Gregg from Department of Health about what we would need to do to move the county nurse out of the courthouse, what would be involved in that. So this is all hypothetical research at this point, but just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. One of the things that came out of all of our discussion about justice facilities is the need for another jury courtroom, which there's a lot of benefit to that. That would probably resolve cases. Well, we know that would resolve more cases more quickly. So that's a general right thing to do for the process of justice, but also there would probably be some benefit as well to the jail population. And one of the things that people often ask me about is the difference between Cottington and Brookings County. Brookings County does have 3 courtrooms, and so it's hard to dig. There's a lot of factors that can be involved, but that's something that you can point to that's a bit of a difference, and we only have 2. So the idea would be to put that in where the equalization office is now, because as the auditor was talking about, that used to be the community room, a nice big room, and we had the architect take a preliminary look at that. The space would accommodate a second jury courtroom pretty easily, actually, because it's a pretty big space. There are some issues about the different levels of the floors around it that we'd have to work through. It doesn't make it the ideal utopian courtroom, but it does pretty much answer the mail, and it will definitely help a lot. Then that means that you have to find a place for the director of equalization, and so where do we move that office? And perhaps that displaces another office, but ultimately that it means that we're looking at the county nurse going to some other place outside the courthouse, and so that's kind of where we're at with that process. And I think we do an annual contract with the state about the nurses services, so we're kind of at a good point, with the budget and everything as far as where to be talking about that. And then let's see, the other thing, we're still working on a possibility of a proposal for a more detailed jail study. That was another thing that the CCJAC recommended we think about. So it's I'm still waiting on a proposal from a consultant about that to see what that would look like. Just for everybody's information, the last jail study we did, which just was a simple projection out 20 years to look at what the overall jail population would likely be in 20 years, that cost just under $10,000. So that's a pretty good price for something like that. So what we're talking about now is a more detailed thing that actually breaks apart what the seriousness, what kind of classification a different inmate might need, how the jail is used in more detail. And then the last thing is the architect is going to be having a meeting a week from yesterday. So he'll be in town just to talk with the clerk of courts and the judges about some more details of what that space should look like if we're going to move the clerk of court's office, which is, I didn't mention that earlier, but that would be one of the offices that would get shuffled around and turn that equalization office into a courtroom. What would be involved in that, and making sure that we're hearing the concerns of the people that would actually be using the space. And so that's going to take place Monday for everybody's information. But that's just a worker bee meeting, but you should know about it. So I think that's it. So thanks for listening to me.
That could also affect Milo.
Yeah, I'm going to be stopped. Yeah, I'm going to be swinging by.
His solitude down there. Any other old business? Any other old business? How about new business? Any new business?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm usually the guy. On the JDAI conference that Tom Walder is going to, I'm planning to attend that as well. So this is kind of new old business. So JDAI is Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. So that's another thing we're working on getting the jail population right, and also providing community alternatives to detention. Had really good involvement from the city, police department, jail, Department of Corrections, so it's really the school, and so a lot of interest. So there's going to be basically a group attending that conference in Sioux Falls, and that's put on by the Unified Judicial System. So the South Dakota Unified Judicial System is putting that on. So they're paying the price of the conference for the attendees, but we have to pay for our own lodging. So
That leads right into the open and some Lee and I had the opportunity to attend a two-day conference here in Watertown a couple weeks ago, and it was a good conference, well attended. There were about 40 people there, and Lee, you want to give a comment on that?
Yeah, so that's kind of a similar thing to the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. This is part of the Stepping Up Initiative. What Commissioner Johnson is talking about is it's called the Strategic Intercept Mapping, which is basically how does a person go through the criminal justice system. What points can you divert a person from, say, getting involved, having a criminal record? What points can you divert them from going to jail? All those things. This particular workshop, though, was focused on the mental illness issue that we have in our jail, that most jails have around the country, and so it was very eye-opening, I thought, and we did discover some points where we might be looking at. How does the court work, and how does particularly the court and law enforcement work together? And so we'll be digging into that some more. And right now, the consultants. So that was, and by the way, that workshop was provided with a grant that our welfare director Sarah Peterson recommended that we apply for. So, and that's all as a result of being one of the I think the second most rural county in the country that's involved in the Stepping Up Initiative, which is a nationwide initiative to deal with mental health in the jails. So at this point, the consultants that walked us through that workshop, so they're going to write up a report to walk us through those recommendations. But essentially what we did, we had, as Commissioner Johnson said, we had about 40 members from the community, so not just county folks, but really anybody that might touch on this, from Human Services Agency to police department, all sorts. Hospital was there, so it was an excellent discussion and walked through that whole process. And so, and that led to points where we can recommend improvements in the process to help with making sure that if a mentally ill person gets involved in the criminal justice system, we try to figure out what's the best place to serve them. So.
Thank you. And I don't know, did you all get this letter from the Governor's Office of Economic Development? I have a letter, it was on my desk this morning, and it was in reference to workforce development training that we partnered with Lake Area Tech Institute on, and they have to do a follow-up or they have to do a review. And I'll just cut to the chase and just go to the conclusion here. It says, after reviewing the project records appear to be in order, central file should be established containing all compliance documentation, all project documentation and correspondence can be placed in this file for protection and ease in reporting to involved parties. The review was very good, and I just had read it this morning, and so you'll just note this as being received and put in the record. And I have 2 copies of it. How many do you need?
Just one.
All right, very good. All right, anything else for the open?
One other thing, been emailing back and forth with Sarah. The mental health services for the jail average about $1,000 per week. A week. Yep. Per week.
Per week.
Okay. It's over $4,000 a month. Yep. It's about $1,000. So.
My estimate's pretty low then, I think.
Okay.
So.
That's what we have been averaging anyway.
How much was our contract for?
About $1,000 for mental health service for inmates, where somebody comes in and provides counseling if they need something. Brenda, there's another thing. Back from our meeting on August 8th, have you had any response from Patrick on Mr. Julius's request for the county to assist with the destruction of that building that we
Right.
requested him to remove.
I have had some correspondence with Patrick. I need to also now touch base again with Mr. Julius, so there's nothing to report yet at this time.
Okay.
Commissioner Waterman, you were just about to speak.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt Cindy, and part of it's,
I may have interrupted you.
anyway.
Well, you're on, so take this opportunity.
Yes, $20,000. Wasn't our contract with HSA for jail people evaluation $20,000? Or am I wrong on that? What is that contract for and how much?
Yeah, I have it in front of me. What basically it says is that so HSA will provide mental health professional to meet and provide counseling and case management services to inmates in the detention center 20 hours per week and will be paid by Cottington County at a rate of $50 per hour. So that's basically what it says. So
And he does assessments.
he does,
So
yeah.
we're doing, the contract is $50 an hour for 20 hours a week or $1,000 a week, and so we're meeting that $1,000 a week. I find that a little bit odd, that it's just automatically coming out to $1,000. Or
Well,
we're
he's
putting in
limited-
more time
he's
and not getting
limited.
billed for it.
I think he's limited to 20 hours a week.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is he's limited to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a 20-hour contract, 20 hours per week,
Yeah.
20 hours per week.
20 hours per week, $50 per
Yeah,
hour.
yeah.
Okay.
That was
That
a
was-
maximum of 20 hours per week, right?
Yeah.
But what Lee is saying is that
Right.
we may need to open that up a little bit more because he's not able to get
We apparently are
everything done
using
in
the
20
maximum hours.
so-
Right.
Yeah,
And
he's
still
way
not
more than-
accomplishing
Yeah,
what he needs
way
to do.
more than 20 hours.
Well, he's
yeah,
getting
of work.
some.
He stayed.
And has he received his certification yet? Recertification?
That's a question for
I
for
don't,
HSA. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's Sarah. She might be able to answer any more questions.
The question that we had, Sarah, now that you just walked in at the right time, is the 20 hours per week that's being contracted with HSA.
Sarah, can you come up?
We are talking about readjusting the budget, and Lee was saying, and after our workshop here a couple weeks ago, it was kind of determined that we are probably going to have to increase those numbers. The question was, are we utilizing all 20 hours? And I think we answered Mr. Waterman's question by saying that, yes, we're probably running out hours and we could probably extend those hours. And the next question was is that if that individual that's offering that service is certified or become certified yet. And we can't answer that. We don't know. And maybe you won't know either.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, it is 20 hours a week, and that's when it ends. There's more clients to see than that. I don't support giving additional hours until the individual starts maybe doing what we're asking, the target group. I mean, I think we have to first do what we've asked, and then we'll look at extending. That would be my recommendation. As far as the individual is not licensed, is that what you're asking?
I
is
know he
not
was in the
licensed.
process of getting relicensed. I wondered if that had been accomplished yet.
He's still not on the licensure list, but I do think it's possible. I need to look up that he may have now been removed from the revocation list. So that is a step forward. I have to double check that piece of it, but not licensed.
So what is it you've asked before you say you're willing to want him to have more hours?
Well, we have a form that he's to fill out, and that's to be our target group, and that's the people he's to focus on to connect to services. We know we couldn't fit the needs of 100% everybody in the jail, so we have about 17 people to provide those services, and I think you can increase it to 40. You're still not going to meet needs no matter what until you focus. I mean, I think before we move it and give more hours, we have to first focus on the people that we've identified in our target group and what they are, people with a severe mental illness that have a lower GAF score, which basically what we've identified, they're people that would qualify for the CARE program. There's about 17 inmates that fit under that. I would support increasing hours if what was taking place was what we wanted. Then I'd say yeah, but let's first get what we asked for the 20 shored up. So they're not being connected. It's kind of like, it's more of a matter of, we want to see this individual and it's picked by that versus saying this is where your screening was. And so we did an assessment, we did a GAF score, and it automatically on our Excel sheet highlights red. Let's focus on those, see if we can be successful with those, and then move on, and then increase the hours. But it's all over the place, and that was part of the reason I'd asked for us to rewrite the contract so we can be more specific in our contract about doing a better job with those services.
I think if we, when it comes time to renegotiate that agreement with HSA, that's the time when we identify those specific things.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I agree. We have to definitely pin it down. On the other hand, since we're in the midst of the budget discussion right now, we know that there's more work in there. Yeah, but I agree. Obviously, we do need to tighten up the descriptions and the deliverables in the contract, and that would help everybody out, the provider as well as the county. But on the other hand, one thing that became, I think, pretty clear in last week's workshop or the week before last workshop is that there is probably more to do. So
the other, just a piece though, on the other side, why I'm very thankful we have somebody in the jail. Even right now on the statewide task force, we're rolling out the pilot project. And the issue that most of the jails are going to run into is going to be the assessments, and we have that covered. And part of where that runs into is if the individual's released as part of their bond, then that's fine. The community mental health service can pay for that assessment. But if they are screened, shows positive, and they still stay in the jail, there's an assessment that probably should be done. Otherwise, the jail could have more liability. That's what the concern is. But because we have somebody that does that, we can actually provide the judge, one, with the screening and the assessment, which could tell you this is what this person has. Yeah, they screened positive. We could tell you it's bipolar, it's schizophrenia. And I just got the data. Like, I think we've had 1 out of 1,000 that was schizophrenia, 108 were bipolar out of about 1,000. But we have that data, but also because we have the person in the jail, it's not going to cost us as much as potentially some of the others. So it's a snag for some of these other jails to be able to kind of move this forward, whereas I don't think we're not running into that issue, but we're on that sense and that. So there's an advantage to us having that. So I do support that, but let's kind of get this worked out a little bit better and then move forward. But yes, if you're looking a year in advance in the budget to have it, but looking at the costs and reevaluating those in the contract, I think absolutely. But the 20 hours, you could probably, if you put 3-4 people in there full time, they'd probably be utilized. And that, I think, so we have just said when your 20 hours are done, you're done. When 20 hours is up, you're done. Type thing. Does that make sense? I think I can give you the numbers. We probably have about, whether it's 45 to 90 new screens per month, and we can give you the numbers of what the work is being done in the services. We're just not focusing. We're all over the place versus focusing on focus. We need to get a better focus to be able to be effective.
Okay. Thank you. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Good. We, Sarah's still sitting here. Over the Labor Day weekend, Sarah was in and out, and anyway, we had quite a run on requests for burials, and I don't know haven't had any for a while, and then we had 3 of them this past week, so we know we've been up to dealing with that. So thanks for all the help and a lot of emails and whatever, but here we are. Anything else for the open?
Just one last thing,
Yes,
Mr. Just
please.
on the Stepping Up
Sarah?
initiative, we just have we did just the meetings this Friday at 1
Okay.
o'clock. So so Stepping Up initiative working group is meeting. So it's if other commissioners, Myron and I are on as part of that working group, but any commissioners that want to come. So it might be a place for a quorum if other commissioners want to come and see what that's about.
1 o'clock
So,
on Friday.
Yep.
Where is this held?
In
Right here.
in this room.
Anything else for the open?
I don't have anything else in my calendar. I guess that there could be a quorum of commissioners at, so.
Commissioner Van Duzen, you have anything?
No, I do not.
And Commissioner Waterman, you have anything?
Okay, Wendy?
I just have one request for an executive session for a personnel issue, just a short one.
Yes, and I have another request from Terry in reference to labor contracts, and so yours would go under number one, if it's a personnel issue. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And Terry, yours might go under number 2, which is number
C.
4.
Or 4,
Yep,
yeah.
number 4.
Yep.
Negotiations.
Yep.
Move to go into executive
All right,
session.
we have a motion to go into executive
Second.
session. Motion by Hatton, second by Waterman. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. There should not be any business.
Paddleboard.